We got a whole bunch of news coming out about the new animated short treks. We've got a little bit of a teaser preview of the Picard Countdown comic number 2, and Gene Roddenberry talks a little bit about the Pike Show. Let's pour it up! Hey everybody, welcome back to the Earl Grey Pour Up. I appreciate you joining us here. Just a quick reminder before we get into today's news stories. Again, if you want to keep up with the channel, be sure to follow my Trello page. The link are always in the description and the pinned comment down below. That way you can stay up to date with everything that I'm going to be working on and some of my thoughts and ideas behind the scenes for the channel as a whole. And also, if you're looking to support the channel, be sure to go check out the merch store to go ahead and get one of these awesome t-shirts or some of my other designs over there. And be sure to use the proper promo code link down below that you can grab to get 10% off your purchase order. The first story that I want to go ahead and talk about today is the Picard Countdown comic. Now, before I get into some of the, bits and details about it, I will let people know, again, this does potentially have some spoilers leading up for the Picard series coming out next year. So if you're not interested in that, go ahead and click on the timestamp piece down below to make sure you go ahead and jump out of the Picard discussion. So, those of you who are aware, we did get Picard Countdown comic last month, the first issue of the new Countdown comic series. Now, this one, based off of the Apple Books website, it looks to be coming out around December 18th, so that's pretty exciting because we're actually very close to that release date. It may be plus or minus 1 or 2 days, but the Apple release was exactly the same day, I believe, as the first issue, so I would expect that the IDW publishing one will also be in that same realm, so you'll be able to purchase it digitally. Now, the hard copies are some other time period, but digitally, you'll be able to get that around December 18th, with the third issue coming out in January, right before the Picard season premiere. This particular Countdown comic was also posted up with some new cover art and 3 full pages with different panels that seem to pick up right where issue 1 ended off, which was where Picard was captured, or I guess you could say imprisoned, on the Romulan colony world after he refused to evacuate the colonists for not wanting to help with the indigenous life forms on the planet. Now, the Romulans basically were telling him, listen, we're ready to go. We don't care about these indigenous life forms. I don't care if they're sentient or not. Picard's like, no, that's not how this works. I have to get all of you out of here, and there's millions of them and like a few thousand of you, so you're just going to have to wait and for us to figure it all out. And they were like, no, so they threw him in jail. And then he kind of engages in a, kind of a private conversation with the governor, the leader of the Romulan colony world that has imprisoned him. And I'm going to kind of leave it at that. I don't want to get too much into the spoiler discussions there because obviously the comic is coming out in just a couple of days. You can go and check out the full page panel descriptions if you're that interested in it, but I don't want to spoil too much of it. And obviously I do want to go ahead and do a full breakdown of all the discussions and, kind of conversations and storyline for that particular video, but I just wanted to pass off to you guys that we got a sound date there and that the first 3 pages, it looks like, have been released. Next up, we're going to be talking about the animated short treks. Now, of course, we do have the 2 animated short treks, which will be the last 2 leading up into the Children of Mars one, which is going to be the prequel episode for the Picard show. So the 2 animated short treks were released on the exact same day, which is actually coming up very shortly, aka tomorrow, December 12th. So we'll be able to go into full depth and review as to what the entire storyline of both of these short treks were. But I just wanted to go ahead and let everyone know that StarTrek.com did post up 2 little teaser videos on their website that kind of gave a little bit of information about both of the different short treks. The Girl Who Made the Stars seems to be a bedtime story that Papa Burnham is telling to younger daughter Michael Burnham about the girl from Africa who helped make the stars, and it's this whole kind of fairy tale story. One of the interesting stills that we saw from that particular one was actually of young Michael Burnham holding a blue tardigrade. Gosh, I hope that doesn't make anybody upset. The other thing that kind of came out of that trailer is that it's not quite clear as if it's just kind of a fun little story that Michael Burnham is learning as a child, or if there's going to be some kind of real world, in-universe kind of connection to whatever it is that happened way back in the day who made the stars. So I'm excited to see exactly how that one plays out. The other one, which is probably my more favorite one looking right now, is Freeland Dot, which is the actual tardigrade that we saw from Star Trek Discovery Season 1, which is, they nicknamed him Ripper, and hanging out with a Dot 7 android robot that is from the Enterprise, I guess you could say the Disco Prize, as people like to call it now, the Pike series Enterprise, which is that little repair droid guy. So they're hanging out, going on like this weird whirlwind adventure. One of the cool shots that we saw inside of this brief little trailer was actually, it looks like Ephraim and Dot hanging outside of the Enterprise. Now, it's not quite clear if this is a time jump thing or what's going on here, but it looks like they're hanging outside the Enterprise while Khan and Kirk and McCoy are hanging out in the sick bay area in connections to the original series episode. I'm not quite sure if they're trying to imply that the Enterprise that we're hanging out with now in the, I guess you could say the animated short is Kirk's Enterprise, because I think most people assumed it would be Pike's Enterprise since that's what we've been seeing so far, but I guess I hadn't really thought about the fact that Kirk might actually show up in animated Trek format. But he is here now, and I'm excited to see if that's just a time jump thing or if that's actually the, captain of the Enterprise during this short Trek's time period, because I don't think they've actually given us any kind of details to when this particular short Trek takes place. But we're not quite sure what's going on there. The whole trailer kind of bounces around from different locations, and we do know that obviously, Ripper, the tardigrade itself, can zoom around space and time and, potentially go back and forward in time or laterally or however you want to say it. So it's unclear if exactly what kind of adventure they're going on, but I thought it was kind of interesting, and I really am excited to see what they're doing with that one. I'm excited for both animated short Treks, to be honest. And the final story for today is, of course, Gene Roddenberry talking a little bit about the Pike Show and essentially confirming at a convention just recently that they are producing a Pike Show. It's going to be getting released at some point, possibly down the line. He did have kind of like a web telecom thing into this convention hall, where he said one of the most exciting things he wanted to share with fans is that Captain Pike is coming in some form or fashion beyond the 3 short Treks that we saw already this year. So that was pretty exciting. I did talk about that in a P2 video just the other day, and I'm excited for that. I think it's good. I think it's in line with everything else that we've heard so far. Kurtzman kind of teasing it a little bit. Anson Mount constantly talking about it in literally every interview, in a good way, in literally every interview. And now we have a situation where one of the guys who's an EP on different, kind of Star Trek projects. It's unclear how in-depth he is, but he's an EP listed on different Star Trek projects and for, Star Trek IP. So it's possible that he is fully aware of what's going on. And I would be surprised if someone like Gene Roddenberry would be so bold as to claim something like that without having any kind of tangible connection to a project that may actually be happening. Now, it doesn't 100% confirm it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it won't get canceled later or that shifting schedules may prevent Anson Mount or Rebecca Romaine or Ethan Peck from returning, where he's talking about several years out. But at least for right now, it does appear as though we are going to be, pretty confident, like 99% sure confident we're going to be getting some type of Pike Show. And I've theorized in the past that it's actually going to be a Pike CBS All Access film, kind of like the way Netflix does films. It's going to be a CBS All Access centric film as opposed to being a theatrical release, which maybe they'll let Noah Hawley and, the Paramount, film production kind of guys still handle that side, but they're going to make a CBS All Access one. That's what I think, because I still think that's kind of like the wave of the future and kind of is in line with CBS's current, content release plan, which is they want more stuff for All Access, and Trek is the forerunner of that. So making a Pike-centric film or even a mini-series exclusively for All Access and / probably Amazon Prime internationally makes a lot of sense and kind of connects back to their overall, like I said, content release plan. All right, let's go ahead and jump right now into the rumor rundown. So speaking of Star Trek 4A, the Noah Hawley Star Trek that's going to be made inside of the Kelvin universe, we've got this cover.com did do a article where they said they had close insider sources that basically said that one of the enemies or the bad guys or the main villain for the new Star Trek 4A film is potentially going to be Commander Kruge, who first appeared inside of Star Trek 3 Search for Spock. You remember he was actually played by Christopher Lloyd, and he was part of the reason that Kirk's son died and all that stuff like that. I guess that's kind of spoilers alert. But this is a rumor. No other real sites have picked up on this news story, and I did do a little bit of digging around, and nothing seemed to be super confirming that. And obviously them just saying we heard from reliable sources, as we know. We love insider sources here at the Ketwolski YouTube channel. I should be wearing my Doomcock shirt. But we love insider sources here. But obviously, this is a kind of in a publication. We've got this covered, has done a lot of clickbait rumor stuff in the past. It's not a particularly reliable site. So if you guys do see this or you see other people making videos about it, I was unable to confirm any of these details with any other third-party sources or any kind of factual information. So that gets shoved into the rumor rundown. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the Trek Trivia question of the week. The Trek Trivia question from last week's episode was, what was the nickname the caretaker had in Star Trek Voyager? And I must say, almost all of you got it right, which was Banjo Man. I thought it was going to be a little bit more challenging, but it was certainly not. So you better get your thinking caps on for this week's trivia question, because this one is hopefully going to be a little bit more challenging. So this week's trivia question is, what was the name of the city Spock was born in on Vulcan? That's right, we do know for sure it's in Alpha Canon. They do talk about what city he was born in, And I, wish all of you good luck, because it took me a minute to find the answer, and, I had to actually cheat in order to find it. So hopefully some of you guys might actually get this from memory, but good luck to all of you. And of course, as always, I will heart all of your correct answers just before the beginning of next week's episode. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the comment of the week. This week's comment comes from user Crystal Garrison, and it says, according to someone in one of my Facebook groups who works on both Discovery and Picard, there is apparently a Pike Show in the works. However, he wouldn't give any details about where they are at in the process. Well, Crystal, I must go ahead and tell you to go ahead and do a full stop there. I would say anyone who's hanging out on your Facebook groups saying that they work for a Star Trek production, or any production for that matter, is probably lying, and they're probably doing it for attention, or they know someone who thinks is in a Star Trek production, but I would not necessarily take that information as fact. I would be cautious as to who's giving you that information. Now, not to say that some Facebook groups probably do have, somebody involved with the Trek production kind of chit-chatting in there, and kind of releasing some kind of information, but I would be very wary about where you're getting that source from, and that goes for all of you. As we continue to get more Star Trek productions put out and more things are kind of being released for Star Trek, keep your wits about you, stay sharp, don't just believe everything you read or see or hear about on the internet. Definitely do your fact checking, go check out multiple different source videos, see what they're citing as their sources, and do some research on your own. So I hope, Crystal, you're not led too far astray. This one seems to be a little bit more on the money because we have a lot of supporting evidence for a Pike Show actually being potentially in possible development, but connected back to the Roddenberry thing, he said it wouldn't be out for several years potentially. So, then maybe they're doing some early pre-production. I don't know. I'm not calling your person a liar, but just keep that in mind. Keep your sharp wits about you. But thank you for your comment, and thanks for sharing your info. Okay, so that wraps up today's Earl Grey Pour-Up. I know we got a whole bunch of different kind of stories kind of thrown all over the place there, but I am curious to hear about, A, what your excitement is for the new Picard Countdown comic, and what do you think may potentially happen there? And B, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the whole Kirk, McCoy, and Khan situation happening in the Freeland and Dot short trek, the animated short trek there. Do you think that this is going to be actually Kirk's Enterprise, or do you think that they're doing some kind of time jump there? I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that. And of course, I'm curious to hear what you think about, the whole situation with the Pike Show. Get your comments down below. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!